I'm Elena. Welcome to Sew Projects. Today I want to show you a particular method where you can adapt your high-waisted knicker to suit your body shape. So I'm going to be using the willow pattern. For instance, if you had a size extra small waist and a size large low hip, then you might find that this pattern isn't going to fit you very well. And vice versa, you might have a large waist, which would be 31 inches, and you might have an extra small low hips at 35 inches. So although the patterns are to measurements, it doesn't necessarily suit your particular body shape, so this is what I want to address today. Firstly, I'm going to put my willow pattern together and then I'll show you how it's done. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be creating a pattern for a small waist and a large hips. So I'm going to be going to my pattern. This is the back of the willow pattern. Which doesn't have any seams or anything like that, only has side seam in. So this is the small, so I'm doing a small waist, and then I'm doing a large low hip. So firstly I need to mark my seam allowance from the top, so that's 5mm, and then the same at the low hip at the bottom, 5mm there. So this just gives me a guideline when I come to change my pattern, because I don't want to be adjusting the seam allowance, I just want to be adjusting the side seam. So all you need to do is use the curved side of your ruler. You don't have to use a curved ruler, but it does make things a lot easier. And then literally just join the two together. Like so. So this was fairly easy for the back, however the front is slightly more complicated, so I'm going to go through that with you now. So this is the front side panel, and again, same steps, just mark the seam allowance in on, oh, done on the wrong one, not on that one, that's the extra small. So on the small, on 5mm, and then the large of the low hip. And use the curved ruler to join them together. So you might think, oh, simple. However, you do have to make sure the side seams match. So now you need to measure the side seams so you know they match. So I'm just going to put the whole of the seam allowance in there. Just make it a bit easier for the measuring. And the same with this one. And then I'm just going to join from the seam allowance area. Now I'm going to measure from here to here. So I've got my nice big tape measure, I'm going to hold my tape measure up like this so I can measure the curve. Pull it nice and straight and taut. So that's 16.6, I'm going to say 16.6. Just going to write this on here so I remember it. And now I'm going to be going to the back. I'm going to be doing the same to this. So 5mm in. So same thing again, just measure this, and I'm hoping it's going to be the same, but what if it's not? I'll show you what to do. Again, make sure you're measuring your actual sew line right nose, so that's 17.1. So at this stage you can decide whether you want to make your lines, your seam allowance slightly longer or slightly shorter. I think I'm gonna go for a shorter. So that needs to be 5mm shorter. So that's not too much. So I'm just gonna take up by 5mm and mark there. But then you'll want to then add on the seam allowance, which is already there because that was the original seam allowance. So I now need to just bring my line up to here. And this could get a little bit complicated with all the lines in the way, but if you just make sure, so this is the line here, and just flip this around. Actually, I'm going to do it like this. So I'm just smoothing it off there. Yeah, that's fine. So they now match, so that's perfect. So now we come to the centre front panel. I'm going to completely repeat the process again. This time, just to save me a bit of time, I'm just going to mark in, I'm just going to mark the seam allowance. So from the small to the large. And then I just need to draw a straight line, because this is a straight line, from those 2 points. And now I need to measure this. So this is 21.1. Just going to write that down here, 21.1. Now this line is attaching to this line, so I need to make sure that they're the same as well. So again, I'm going to measure where this comes up to. So I'm going to measure from the large at the bottom. However, remember to add, make sure that you've put your seam allowance in. So you're only measuring up to there. So 21 from the sew line, 21.1 comes to here. Oh, that's really close. That's 6mm. So I just need to take away 1 millimetre of that. Oh. So I just need to very slightly take it under a bit. and then use my curved ruler to get a nice line. Probably could have actually even less than that, but that's all you need to do, a small line like that. So to make sure everything is correct, I would now cut this out, and after I've cut it out, then I can compare the pieces, make sure all the lines are smooth and everything's matching up. Just one thing to note as I just started cutting it out, make sure to add your seam allowances back on for when you cut it out. So now after cutting out the altered pattern, I can see whether I've got a nice smooth line, whether everything goes together nicely. So the back is going well. I always find if you turn it on the plain side, it's a lot easier to see if the curves are nice, that kind of thing, because you've got lots of distracting lines on the front. So I can see the back is looking really nice, so that's fine. However, on the front, I've noticed if I match the seam allowance where it's going to cross, it's just a tiny bit out, so that would be a centimetre, due to the new curve. So instead of coming in more, it's now coming out, which is just creating the curve very slightly out. So let's just pull that up here. So where that's now crossing, I just need to smooth this off. So all I'm going to do, just place a weight or something, or you can even stick it down briefly, is to get my curve ruler and draw a line. I'm just going to take that tiny little bit out, and then that should all work together nicely. The only thing with this method, it works well, works fine for maybe 2 sizes, but if you were doing from an extra small to like an extra large, you need to think about how you're going to get it on. Is the waist stretchy enough to get over your hips? And if it's not, there's some things you can do. So for instance, at the back you can put a little keyhole. So I don't know, let's have a look. Can have a keyhole of about 7 centimeters. That would work quite nicely with a little clasp or a D hook or something like that, and you can actually open the top out a bit more, which is going to give you more room to get them on. So that's the only thing I'd say about this method. I apologise for the lighting. It's gone a lot darker since I started the video. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. The only thing I was going to say was I would recommend making a mock-up or a toile, just so you know it's right before you start cutting into final fabrics, that kind of thing. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.